The one modern technology. I'm a buzz kid.
Whoa. Echo.
I'm logging off and logging back in.
Yeah, Mike, you go away. Mike had serious issues going on there. Boy, it's the first time I went to. All right, Russ, you try to log out and log back in, see what happens. Okay, Russ has gone away now. I think maybe it was Russ all along. We were blaming you, Mike. We were blaming you.
Shocking. I noticed something just in the last day or so that is, and probably this has been a new update of Twitter that I didn't catch on about, but in direct messages, you are not limited to 140 characters anymore. Somebody just sent me basically a Tolstoyan
manifesto.
Yeah, just sent me like 3 paragraphs, and it was on direct message. It was like an email. So
well, it makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, direct messaging is just for communication. It was always the stupidest thing in the world to have like 25 direct messages in a row to somebody if you were trying to tell them something.
When that guy sent it to you, was it like, "Hey, bleep tard"?
No, it was actually a mutual friend of ours, Russ. So no, he only said that at the end.
We are live. Not that it matters. I'm just saying we are live. Not that it matters. But so last night I got to go to for the first time ever. I'm sure you've been there, Russ. I have never been there, to the PPL Arena.
Yeah, it's nice.
In Lehigh Valley, which is in Allentown, when they were playing the Islanders. So when you're playing the Islanders in Allentown, you can't help but think Billy Joel songs. As I'm driving up, I'm just like, "No, we're living here." I mean, Allentown definitely is. Every time you hear the word Allentown, no matter where you live in the country, you have to start singing that song in your head, especially when you're playing the Islanders, for crying out loud. So,
well, it's funny because
Allentown's doing a lot better than the version in the song.
Yeah, it is. It's doing a lot better.
Yeah.
It's doing a lot better. And go ahead, Mike. What were you saying?
Oh, it's ironic that our Russ and I's favorite chicken wing establishment in Buffalo is in an area of the city called Allentown, because there's an Allen Street in Buffalo that is the center of everything that happens.
Wow. And then soon Kevin will be here. Kevin Allentown.
Well, let's get Russ's impressions on the Stephen Colbert show.
Yeah,
I want to hear about it.
So it was interesting because, he interviewed Ted Cruz, and to interview a guy like Ted Cruz in New York, you knew Ted Cruz was not going to be popular.
Yeah, right.
But Colbert let him spew his rhetoric for a while, and then he really got him on the gay marriage part, because Ted Cruz was like, well, it's in the Constitution, and Colbert was like, no, it's not. Actually, marriage is not listed in the Constitution. And all of a sudden, Cruz clammed up. But then there was some boos, and Colbert actually silenced the crowd and said, hey, look, he's my guest. Let's not boo him. And so he really came off as a powerful interviewer for that. And so that was fun to be a part of that.
That's cool.
I don't think you really get a full sense for the whole thing on television. And actually, they flubbed, like Don Henley was on, which was great, right? He's a legend.
Yeah.
Wow.
But they had a sound problem. And I even said to my wife, I said, I hear a hum. We do enough of these shows.
Yeah.
And sure enough, he had to come back out and repeat the 2 songs that he did. So we saw Don Henley do a repeat of in the New York Minute, and then he has a new song. So he had to do those twice. And then they had to shoot out a sequence, so then Colbert had to fix the sequence problems too, which sometimes happens on our NHL Network radio show with Shane and I if we tape out a sequence. So, it shows. And so, but it was, I'll tell you, in between takes and everything else, Colbert is a very witty guy, and he's really onto it. He knows what people want. He's even talking about how his daughter texts him once in a while, "Hail Hydra," and he started giggling about that. So it was a fun experience. It was actually really, really good. And I'll tell you, we all sometimes take pot shots at the NBA, but Steph Curry was there, and he's the reigning MVP. He's a great kid. He really is. I have to say.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I've been so impressed with his shows. I mean, his interviewing abilities is really bar none phenomenal. He has interviewed some crazy extreme people too, and early on, and just nailed them all. His Jeb Bush interview was phenomenal. His I mean, I don't know if you guys saw the Biden interview. The Biden interview, that was
Biden
unbelievable.
interview was unbelievable, considering we all thought we knew everything about Joe Biden.
Yeah, and that you got to just YouTube Joe Biden's interview on Colbert. That was by far the most real. You've never seen a vice president interviewed in a more real setting, or than that. I mean, he was just completely. It was like they were just talking to each other on the phone. There was no audience. I mean, it completely was just the two of them back and forth. They obviously, have a great deal of respect for each other.
One last thing, too, that just comes to me when you said that, because they try and prime you a lot. There are no laugh tracks, and there's nothing added to the show. So literally, whatever happens in the audience, that ambient sound, that's all they've got.
That's cool. See, that when I went to see the Colbert Report, which I did see towards the end of it, there was a lot of laugh tracking stuff. Not laugh tracks, but a lot of priming.
Right.
And it was really annoying. So I'm glad
because the show wasn't that funny.
Yeah, no, I'm glad they I'm glad that they don't do that, because that really kind of annoyed me. How you doing, Kevin?
Doing great.
Excellent. We were just talking about Allentown, and because I was in Allentown last night, first time I've ever been at the PPL arena, and then Mike and Russ like wings from a place called Allentown, and then of course we have Kevin Allentown joining us, so we've got everything that we need today.
All Allen all the time.
All Allen all the time. So let's get into it. Here we go. Today's date is the 22nd. Thanks. September 22nd.
Jeez.
Someday.
Tuesday.
Someday he's gonna get it right.
It's someday. It's September 22nd. It's Tuesday, September 22nd. Got it. See, the problem has been this. Okay, I worked on trying to get better at this, but now the problem has been this. My kids have been off weird days every week since school has started. So it's not just I base my whole time structure around the fact that Monday through Friday, the kids aren't here. So, but when the kids are off on a Wednesday or off on a Monday or off on I just get totally thrown on the days of the week. Now, thank you very much. Way too much explanation than needed. Here we go. All right. So we'll start now. Hello, Hockey World. It's Tuesday, September 22nd, 2015.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
I'm Kevin Allen of USA Today Sports.
And I'm Eklund, and you're watching the HockeyBuzzCast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes to you Monday through Friday around 1 p.m. Eastern Time to fill you in on the hockey goings-on. And we actually have hockey goings-on now. And last night I actually went to a hockey game, and wow, what a great feeling that was, too. And last night now we have now proven that Mike Babcock is beyond superhuman for the Maple Leafs. He's already won 2 games in one night. He's already up. He's already proving that the Leafs. There's no way the Leafs can tank if they keep winning 2 games a night, Mike. There's no way.
Yeah. Okay. Keep telling yourself that.
2 victories a night. Anyway, I just wanted to. I wanted to start with the game I wanted to see because I wanted to talk some prospects with Russ real quick because I went to see the Islanders. Well, the Bridgeport team basically play the version of the Flyers and some other people. And there were a lot of cool impressions that I got from the game. From a Flyers fan perspective, first off, I was really impressed by the Vinny LeCavalier-Sam Gagner combination. And I know this sounds like a strange thing, but here's 2 players who both really need like a new lease on life, right? And both are highly skilled players, and it's fun to watch them play together. And put together, they were really impressive. I mean, I don't know. There's so many different kinds of lines that could happen, but if I'm the Flyers, I'm thinking of that combination to keep them together because they definitely showed a lot. Umberger played better than he's ever played since, like I said, since he was knocked out by Brian Campbell by the Buffalo Sabres back in the playoffs years ago. This is the best Umberger I had seen. I mean, this is as far as the Flyer goes. He was really impressive. So that was a line, Umberger, LeCavalier, and Gagner. Like talk about like the reclamation project line, right? But they were all together, and they were good. They were really good, and they were probably they in a way stole the show. But who really stole the show for me, Russ, was Travis Konecny. Who and I'm sorry, Mike, about this. I have to talk about this because I know we got Travis by trading with the Maple Leafs, but I can tell you I wrote in my blog today the saddest day of the year for the Flyers fans this year is going to be the day that they send him back to Ottawa because he's just dynamic. I mean the best way I could describe it from what I saw, and I'm not like you. I saw him one night, but he looks like he loves to play the sport of hockey. That's when you see him skate. When you see everything he does, he looks like he just loves to play it. Russ?
Yeah. He's got a high compete level and a really high hockey IQ. He always had that He even though he was sort of like junior fast, I always felt like he needed to get NHL fast, and he is. And in the last 6 months, I've seen that really occur. And he's probably put on, I'd say, about 8 to 10 pounds of muscle, and so that part's really helped his game too. So yeah, in a game like that, I would expect him to look great. I really would.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys that he definitely, if you put him in the AHL, would probably score 50 points.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is, if you put him in the NHL, might grind down towards the end of the season because he's not the biggest guy, and that's why you want to wait on a kid like that. But
Yeah.
he is highly skilled, and he really can pass, and he's got a great shot, and his compete level is fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the Maple Leafs made a slight mistake there when they had the 24th overall pick with Konechny on the board. That they didn't pick him and instead traded down. Now, in retrospect, they ended up trading down. They got extra second-round picks. They got a kid like Jeremy Bracco in the second round. So they got a quality, skilled young player who's got a size issue. Konechny, I mean, the book on Konechny is he's got all the hockey IQ, he's got all the skill, he's got enough speed, but there was a question of durability with his lack of size. And maybe he shakes that if he plays another year in junior, he builds himself up, he plays a year in the AHL. But he's got the talent. It's just a question of time rather than anything else.
He doesn't play small, though. You don't see him as small. Go ahead, Kevin.
At the draft, too, I remember that, a lot of teams really liked him. They were sort of reluctant to pick him. But whoever took him, you knew that the other scouts were going to say it was a good pick. I mean, I think people saw him as a really good roll of the dice. There was some reluctance because of size and other issues, but they all thought, this is a kid with a chance to be better than his status.
Oh yeah, you can see it. I mean, you can just there are a few players. He's one of those players you want to get back on the ice. Like, and I've talked about this before. Like, you wait for his next shift type players, and that it was no question more so than Provorov to me. Provorov was good as well, but Konechny just was flat out flying, and he just never stops moving. That's one of the interesting things about his game. He reminds me of Mike Richards, but much faster. But in the same kind of, he gets himself in the same sort of positions that Mike Richards gets himself into.
Yeah.
He just does everything a lot faster. Maybe the best comparison I could think of, and I don't think I'm the first person to draw this comparison because I know I heard it somewhere else, would be Gallagher from the Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah.
He really kind of has that kind of feel to him when he plays out there. But maybe a little bit more touch, on his shot. Like, Gallagher scores a little.
I think he's more skilled than Gallagher, and Gallagher has more sandpaper. I mean, that's probably the difference between the two.
Yeah, it's really close. I mean, he scored a beautiful goal last night, and it was a real goal scorer's goal where he kind of came down on the rush, made a pass, and kept going towards the net, and the puck sort of just found its way through a bunch of feet to him, and then he quickly, backhand swiped it into the goal as he was moving forward. It was really it was real impressive, and it was one of those goals. It's like, whoa, that's an NHL goal right there.
Yeah, and I remember he was at the top prospects game in St. Catharines. I think it was in January, and this was a sheet of ice that had McDavid, Strome, Marner, most of the top, the first round and early second round. And Konechny, to me, was the best player on the ice at that game. Now, it's a glorified all-star game, I know, but he showed a lot of skill, and I think the Flyers have a pretty winning pick there. It's just going to take a year or two. This is not going to be a guy who makes the Flyers at 18 years old. They have to let him, and I think that's the model that Ron Hextall is going with right now. He's going to let these players develop. He'll play another year in junior, and then he'll go to the American Hockey League and then come up. But I think he's a pretty good pick.
Now, Eck, I have two questions for you. Who was Provorov paired with, and did Medvedev play?
Yes and yes. Both actually. Both answer the same question. He was paired with Medvedev.
Oh, he was? Okay.
Yeah, he was.
That I thought might happen, if you remember.
And it was and it's a great pairing, honestly, and some pairing I could see the Flyers taking into the regular season because Medvedev was way more impressive than I thought he would be. Having watched him play, only like in the Olympics and other times when you'd see him play, he was always good, but he was one of those guys like, okay, I have to admit that in my back of my mind I put him as like, oh, they're putting him in there because they need a KHL guy in there or something like that. That was in the back, that's where I was thinking with Medvedev, they need to put KHL players on there. And maybe that is the case, but he definitely can be best described as very big and very confident in everything he does. He's a very confident player. He's, there's no telling. I mean, he's a new player, so you go out there, but if you were just to watch them and no one told me how old these guys were or whatever, I would say he's got way too much experience to be a rookie. He doesn't look like a rookie. He puts himself in the right spots. He does something very good for the Flyers. The Flyers like to run this power play with the guy, the center point, the only one-point man. He's a perfect player for that spot, which is where they played Kimmo Timonen. I think they scored a goal last night when he took a slap shot from there on it, and it was deflected in by I forget who was deflected in, maybe Raffle. But he was really good. Medvedev was impressive. I mean, there's a couple moments when I was worried because he's so big, you have a tendency to think he's going to be slow. But he gets almost caught to the position where he's a little slow. So I want to see him when this was a Bridgeport team. This was a little bit different. So I want to make sure that when he goes up against fast NHLers, what he's going to be like. But Provorov finally, and then we'll move on, was really impressive in terms of the fact that he does everything at such a high pace that almost too fast for the players around him. At least the last night's game, I mean, Giroux was there, Voracek was there, but sometimes he was going with I don't know, some other AHLer line was out there too. So when Provorov's best moment was when he carried the puck into the zone on a 3-on-2 and continued to carry it and made a pass and then immediately went to the net, which was an odd thing to see a defenseman do. Because he didn't just go to the net waiting for a rebound shot. I'm trying to get this echo off here, sorry. All right. Let's see if Kevin. All right. Okay. That's better. Sorry, guys. Weird. Mike came back and the echo went away. That was really weird. So Provorov comes down. Last thing I'll say about the game. Provorov comes down and he passes the puck off, and instead of just going to the net, which is a good thing for a defenseman to do on a 3-on-2, he goes to the net. He's so fast, he gets to the net before he should, turns it back to the goalie, and sets up a screen on the 3-on-2. And was able to do that. That's how fast the guy is. Like, he was able to get in there, turn it back, set up a screen, and stand there waiting for the screen shot to come through. I mean, to me, that was a player who was taking like 3 points ahead, Yeah. So that was impressive. Not him. So let me see. I will log out for a second, and then come back. Maybe it's me. And but in the meantime, Kevin, I want you to tell me why, after one night, we now know that Eichel is better than McDavid. I'll be back.
Well, I'm not sure that's true, but I've said all along that I felt that that's just terrible. Eichel. Maybe it's me. Maybe I should get out.
All right, get out and come back.
Okay. Yeah, I'll get out. You guys chat. I'll be back.
It's process of elimination here, Russ. Let's see.
We'll talk about the impending news conference that's coming up at 2 o'clock, because John Tortorella will be the U.S. coach for the World Cup, and that sort of makes me giggle a little bit. Now, look, we know he's the most winning U.S. coach ever, and there was always that talk that he might be the Olympic coach, but then there was always that talk, well, he's too much of a loop job to be the Olympic coach, and so clearly he wasn't going to be. But the World Cup is different, right? Because Tortorella was always good for the NHL and for ratings. So for having him in the World Cup makes sense because he'll get ratings. Now, the one thing I laughed at was if you saw his tan, he was like a supermodel, and that made me laugh.
I clearly think this is a conspiracy brought forth by ESPN, because we'll know that in October when Team Canada names Barry Melrose the Canadian coach. I think it's funny because Team USA, at the World Cup, they've named Tortorella.
Barry Melrose thought Dean Lombardi was the coach at first when he was on his little interview segment, and then he had to get corrected. So if that helps you.
Wow. But Team USA brings back Ron Wilson for the World Juniors, and now Tortorella gets named for Team USA. So I'm trying to.
It's all hits all the time, Mike, isn't it? I mean,
I guess you don't need a winning personality to be a coach of an American team.
Can Ted Nolan be far behind? I mean, this is just a controversial coach after controversial coach.
Here's the thing, though. I'll tell you the difference, though. Wilson was never volatile. Like, he's not going to be volatile with those kids.
Unless, of course, you played for him. I mean, he told his players not to remember all the time.
I know, but he's not a volatile guy. He's not going to have bad press conferences
Right.
and embarrass anybody. You always run that risk with John Tortorella.
Oh, it's a great risk to run too. I do.
Yeah.
It was as if the NHL said it's the World Cup of Hockey is sweepstakes. Sweepstakes. We're gonna get Tortorella in for sweepstakes.
Yep.
It got worse in my absence.
No, it was better. But Mike, you try again. Mike and Russ go away for a second. Two of you together. We'll do this like a typical thing, so we can talk about you guys together. Now, Tortorella. Now it's just you and I, Kevin. We can say what we really feel about this.
Yeah.
Tortorella, what do you think?
Well, I thought it was a good choice for a short tournament. I certainly understand. There was a group around the NHL that was just petrified of the possibility that John Tortorella was going to be the Olympic coach for the U.S. in 2014, and their fear was that he would create an international incident. He would because as you know, Eck, and as anyone who covers the Olympics, there's press conferences there where there's 1,000 members of the media. So
some Danish reporter is saying, "What does he sucks mean?"
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. I mean, they were fearful that he would not put the best face on hockey, and at the Olympic Games. Sure, it's about the competition, but the reason the NHL wants to go there is to sell the sport and, to put a good face on it. So there were people who were concerned that he would not be a good choice for the Olympic team, and obviously they went with Dan Bylsma. Well, the World Cup is a little bit different. I think the emphasis is purely on the competition. This is just a short tournament, best against best, played on a small rink, and I think all those factors and the fact that the U.S. team didn't perform well in 2014, and I think there was a sort of a feeling that they needed someone to push them harder than they had ever been pushed. And Dan Bylsma is an exceptional coach, but he's also a very nice guy. And I think it's the same thing that happens all the time in the NHL. You go from a player style coach or an easier coach against a tough love coach, and I think that's what they're doing. And that's second, and most importantly, you have to look at the management team in place: Lombardi, Holmgren, Brian Burke. Now, what is the ingredient that links all that together? They all like big, physical, rough teams, and they wanted a guy who was that style of coach. I mean, Burke has Hartley, who is an edgy coach. Lombardi has Sutter, who is an edgy coach. And, Holmgren was an edgy player, and, that's just their style. So when you factor all that in, it makes perfect sense for me. It was a logical choice for them, for this group, for what had happened before. So
I know that the reaction when I heard on Canadian radio yesterday was that they were surprised that it wasn't Peter Laviolette, and maybe the fact that Holmgren's part of the management staff there and Laviolette was released by the Flyers.
I think that
had nothing to do with it. Only because Laviolette and Bylsma are the same type of coach.
Right.
Up-tempo guys, and they wanted to go different. That's all. I mean, I think everybody loves Peter Laviolette, to be honest with you. He was I think he really distinguished himself in the preparation of that team. I remember, if you remember, he was out of work, and so he was able to go around and do a lot of scouting, and he had a lot of impact. And I think the selection committee leaned on him pretty heavily. I think they're really bullish on Laviolette. I just think his style of play isn't all that different than Bylsma. So I just think they wanted to go opposite. And
I know this is obvious, but I know you got to answer the question anyway. This decision was made by the U.S. general managers, not the NHL, because people keep saying, I mean, we're saying the NHL wants this, the NHL wants that. Do you think that this is definitely a decision made by?
This is a decision made by Dean Lombardi and his two assistants. I mean, this is it wasn't the big committee like we've had for the Olympic game. It was a pretty small group here.
Yeah.
And Jim Johansson is still an integral part of it all. He's the USA Hockey person, but he knows more about the American program than anyone, including the general managers, just because it's his job to keep track of all players American, and he does a really good job of that. I've been talking to him for years about players coming up, and he's always been right in projecting what type of players that the Americans are going to be. He's a pretty good talent evaluator. So this was a decision made by the ruling triumvirate, and I don't think it's. Some people have expressed surprise because he wasn't an NHL coach, and there are NHL coaches out there, but he's got a Stanley Cup, he has a pedigree, he's been an Olympic assistant in the past, he's gone to the World Championships, he's done all the things that you do as a stepping stone to get the opportunity to coach at this level.
And he's won more of the games than any other American coach in history, correct? I mean, we're not talking about. And the other thing, I mean, I was talking to somebody last night in the press box about this, and they said a couple interesting things, and they really said the one thing they thought was that they went to. He was always there when he was at the top for the U.S. Like when he was at the top of his game, when he was winning all those games, when he was winning Stanley Cups, and when he was going far with the Rangers, he always had time for the USA program, and now that he's on the bottom, there's a certain level of, okay, we really kind of but we really need to look at him, even though he's not an NHL coach. It doesn't really matter that he's an NHL coach. It's more a matter of his international career, like we talk about.
They're rewarding him for loyalty, is what.
Yeah, in his NHL career, yeah, and I think.
Yeah, but I think you're right on that because they do. There is sort of a pecking order, and to be honest, I mean, don't you think it is fair to reward the guys who do show up? That's why it was so hard last year with Jack Johnson. Jack Johnson was Captain America. He showed up at the World Championships when nobody else wants to go. Yeah. And so to put him off that Olympic team was hard on the guys because they felt a loyalty to him. But at the end, it wasn't enough. Like if it was a borderline decision, I think Johnson would have gotten the nod because of his loyalty to USA Hockey. But I think ultimately they decided it wasn't borderline, that there were just too many good defensemen. But the one thing about Tortorella, you need to factor in as well, and I say this all the time, and I'll be interested to get Russ's take on this, but they're still reaping the benefit of Tortorella's tenure with the New York Rangers in New York. Like I argue all the time that he needed to go when it was time for him to go, but Girardi and McDonough in particular are the players they are because they were under Tortorella. Like he put that edge on them. He turned them into competitive, highly, ultra competitors, and that's what they're looking for in this World Cup. They want Tortorella to come in and turn over a couple of garbage cans in the dressing room, to be fired up every minute he's there. If a player is not performing at a high level, they're expecting him to bench that player, and make the guys who are going well are going to get the ice time, and that's what they want of them. They want a tough love style of coach.
Yeah, you're right about both those things. And Tortorella's at his best when he doesn't have to worry about the goalie. Like when he had Lundqvist, there weren't any more of these goalie issues that he had in Tampa because there's a lot of them, right? They're all documented. He's not going to have any goalie issues on this team either, and so he'll be able to, he'll have his number one, and he'll be able to ignore that, and that'll be good because when he doesn't mess around with the goalie and doesn't have that bad rapport with them, he's great, and I think that'll be a big factor too.
I don't know, Russ. I mean, Schneider, Quick. The Quick is the obvious choice, but with Tortorella, suddenly I started thinking yesterday, is he the obvious choice? Like I started thinking
he'll be the obvious choice. I do. I don't.
Quick, yeah. I mean, he's Lombardi's goalie too.
Right.
He is Lombardi's goalie, but these Schneider's more of a Tortorella type goalie, or type. I don't know. Does this mean, another person brought up last night the question, does this mean Callahan has a really good shot at making this team? Because we were talking about Callahan was on our bubble the other day.
But anyway, because of the style of play.
And I'll even float the one, just because he did some things that weren't great with Chris Kreider in his development, it won't stop him from putting Chris Kreider on the team. And perfect example is Vinny Prospal. If you go back, there's a videotape of Vinny Prospal on the bench, very happy after he scored his 30th goal, and Tortorella just admonishes him. He screams at him. He's like, "You don't do that," and he's while this is all going on and the goal song's on, he's screaming at him. And I was thinking, when the Rangers said they were looking at Vinny Prospal, my thought was, how could they put him on the team? These guys don't get along, and they did, right? So he got along with Vinny Prospal, so there's not going to be an issue with that either.
Yeah, no, and I think you're right. I mean, I think Kreider's in the mix, but I think Callahan was on the team regardless. Just
I agree.
He's almost in that, because he's Chris Drury status. If we all remember the Brian Burke status. Why is Chris Drury on this team? Well, because he's Chris Drury, and that's the way Callahan is almost now. I mean, they love his bite. He can play any role. He can slide up and down the lines. He's very well liked by his teammates, and they know he shows up to play. There's no up and down with Callahan. That you know what you're going to get from him, and because of that, I think they sort of had him penciled in as either the 13th forward or a fourth line guy.
Yeah,
that makes sense. All right, so as I said before that we were going to prove today that Eichel is better than McDavid once and for all. After one night of watching these two players play, I'm convinced more than ever that Eichel is the better player. And we can now. Last night, here's the shorthanded goal Eichel scored. If you guys didn't see it.
So give out the Hart Trophy to Eichel and give the Stanley Cup to the Leafs, and we can go away for the summer again, right, Eck?
Right. Exactly. So this is Tyler Myers coming in on. No, that's Eichel.
Right.
And wearing number 41, which was kind of...
Yeah, as an homage to Nikolai Kulemin.
Right, is that who it is? Like, Myers wasn't 41, right? That's why my joke fell flat there.
No,
Myers was 40-something.
Eichel's still playing in New York. Maybe it's to Tom Seaver.
Oh, there you go. Well, the big question is this. This shows a real interesting difference between these two teams. It's a beautiful move and a beautiful goal, and he had another spinorama earlier in the game that was phenomenal as well. So the question is this, McDavid skates out last night with 97. I think because he's a rookie, maybe he should have been given the number. I don't know, since he's already a high number, maybe given the number 2, and Eichel's given the number 41 instead of. Eichel with 41.
He chose 41, and I'm not sure of the significance of it. But when he was drafted, he was walking around Buffalo doing some public relations stuff wearing the jersey number 15 because he was drafted.
Well, that's what everybody said. He was going to be number 15, but that's not the case.
For 2015, that's what they do that every year.
Right, but he chose 41. I'm not sure the reason why, but he chose 41.
Because a lot of people online ordered Eichel 15 jerseys. You realize this, right? This is like something that was common. This is pretty funny that this is actually... So this is going to be his number? Sorry, I missed that. I thought this was like a rookie thing that they were just giving him a number because.
I don't think so. I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think he chose that jersey number. I know that there was a minor controversy in Toronto because Mitch Marner wanted to wear 93, and 93 is Doug Gilmour's number, and nobody has worn 93 since, and they didn't. I think they didn't want to give him 93 because that would make the expectations even higher for a kid who was drafted 4th overall. But, he's wearing
really Doug Gilmour's number. 39 is really Doug Gilmour's number. He had to change it to 93 when he had to Toronto, if you remember.
But unfortunately, he's wearing 84, which was Mikhail Grabovski's number, so that's going to relegate him to massive concussions over many years.
All right, it looks like Eck is right that this 41 was given to him in development camp. And
that's what I thought.
Eichel just said, 41's just a number. I'd be wearing 15 if he had the choice. So I guess he really does like 15. So I can see that they'll make the switch if he makes the team, which he's going to make the team. I'm pretty sure it'll happen.
I think he's got a shot.
I had heard that he liked 41, but okay.
I think
here's the true story.
All right.
The true story is that he's starting with 41, so that when I write his book in 20 years, as I do for these guys, well, I'll have about 1,000 words when I can talk about, because it's formulaic. You always talk about what number you start out with, and why you started out with. It's in the Roenick book, it's in the Chelios book.
I'm going to have another book on my shelf over there of my 20 Kevin Allen.
Brett Hall's book that I wrote with him, there's some kind of story about how he started out with what number and why, and so he's just getting ready for his book.
Well, he's one less than the answer, which is
adding his biography.
Number 42 is the real answer to the universe and everything. So he's one less than that. So there's a geeky reference for everybody out there. But yeah, last night, so Eichel last night plays with Taylor Hall, who gets hurt, which has never happened before. And
Eichel did not play with Taylor Hall.
no, not Eichel. I'm sorry, McDavid. I'm sorry, McDavid plays with Taylor Hall last night. I
That would be
apologize.
a real story if he did play.
Taylor Hall gets hurt, which is, like I said, I was trying to set up that part. I'm a little bit slow today on my punchlines here, but yeah. So Taylor Hall last night was, that was a sort of the McDavid. Yeah, it was funny. I'm driving home from the game and I'm listening to it on XM. As I'm listening to the Oilers game on XM, and the Oilers. By the way, first of all, I listened to the Maple Leafs game, and those guys are hilarious. The Maple Leafs radio announcers. I've never really listened to them before, but they were really funny because they were talking about how the coach Babcock is going back to Detroit for a preseason game, right? And there's a big deal, I guess, right? So this is coming up next week or something, or this weekend or something. And they said, well, they wonder if he'll actually go to the bench or sit upstairs because, the Detroit wants to make a big deal out of it, obviously. But, at the same time, I guess to maybe make a bigger deal of him returning for his first regular season game or what have you. So there's a whole thing going on. And so they're talking about this as the Maple Leafs game's winding down last night on the radio. And the play-by-play guy says to the color guy, well, you should ask him that question. And the guy's like, oh, I'm not going to ask him that question. That's a stupid question. He would kill me if I asked him that question. So, yeah, they were very funny. But the Oilers announcers couldn't talk enough about how boring a game it was with McDavid last night. How the game there was nothing going on in that game at all. It was just really boring. And where this game was, everybody was talking about how crazy exciting it was with Eichel's moves and play. But this did bring up the one thing I want to talk about. Then we'll move on. Is that I did hear that the Oilers could not be done dealing, and that there still is a scenario out there that they're trying to get a scorer winger, and it makes me wonder if they really think Taylor Hall's the guy. Like we all think that Taylor Hall's the guy for McDavid, but there's a little bit of doubt I heard that Taylor Hall might not be the right player, right match for him, and that they would consider swapping one of their top 6 guys for a top 6 winger that's more of a sniper. And this is what I was. This is just throwing it out there. This is something.
I'm sorry. Give my honest opinion sometimes about the Edmonton Oilers. They sometimes tinker way too much and look at too many things. McDavid could play with anybody. Like there's no real worry about who his winger is. Trust me.
Yeah.
And it won't show itself in preseason games, but it'll show itself.
No, I know. I'm not.
I'm sorry. Peter Chiarelli is a smart, sharp general manager. If he trades one of those top 6 wingers, Eberle or Yakupov or Taylor Hall, he's not trading him for another top 6 winger. He's trading him for the thing that has been the problem with that team for the last 5 years. He's trading him for a comparably aged defenseman. If he trades top 6 for top 6, I think he's lost all senses because that doesn't make any sense for that team.
I don't even know why we're discussing it. There's nothing in Chiarelli's history that says, that he would tinker like that so early in the season.
Well, we're discussing it because I brought it up, Kevin. That's why.
Okay, all right.
But I mean, whether or not has merit or not, that's definitely up to the panel to decide. But it's just something that was told to me last night that there could be some tinkering going on there.
I agree with you. I think that he's looking around to make another trade, but I don't think it's a top 6 for a top 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's very, very possible. I mean, so the one I wanted to get
looking for a veteran bottom 6 winger who can provide some character and you've got a very young, very talented team there. You've got a lot of skill players and not a lot of toughness, not a lot of grit. Maybe he's looking to add a veteran guy who wouldn't cost him too much to help out and provide a little leadership. But you have to find out what McDavid can do with these talented wingers and allow Nugent Hopkins as your number 2 to have some connection with the other talented wingers. I think there's the potential there for a lot of offense, but let it be. Leave it alone for 40 games and see what happens.
Yeah, that was my position all last summer, that they weren't going to trade, when all the rumors were floating about Eberle, because I felt like you had to watch it for a while in order to and I talked to Chiarelli. I mean, he didn't tip his hand, but that was the impression I had. He just wanted to watch him and see how it all kind of worked together. So it would stun me if he would make a move involving any of those premium players when he hasn't had any time to sit and watch them perform together. And I think he's even I agree with Mike. Like, if he had a chance to improve his defense, he would do it in a heartbeat. But I do have the impression that he really wants to see how this defense can work. He's excited. He likes the ideas of Sekera on his team, and he wants to know whether Griffin Reinhardt's ready to play. And
Right.
if he makes one of those moves like that, Reinhardt would be the odd man out. So.
That makes sense. And another person I talked to last night did say to me that it's not just McDavid's impact this year, that Draisaitl is also going to be very impactful. And you have to remember that Draisaitl is going to have a huge impact, he said, on the Oilers. That and I do agree, Draisaitl is a much better player than people realize.
Oh yeah, no, he's a terrific player. He got rushed in there. He, as a center, is not a strong face-off guy, and especially in his first year. So there were a lot of things that sort of whittled away at his confidence. But he's a heck of a player.
Hey, Russ, what do you think about the idea of on him playing the wing?
I like it because, again, I watched him getting his clock cleaned at faceoffs, and that's what Colorado did with McKinnon. Why would you put a kid in there if he's not going to be great at faceoffs, facing up against 25, 30-year-old guys? You just don't do it.
Right, but he also could benefit from playing that third-line center role like sort of Jordan Stahl did with Pittsburgh back in the day. I mean, the only way you get better at face-offs is working at them. I mean, maybe you can work at them in practice, but, I mean, you can also work at them during games and win face-offs against third-line competition.
So if you're not strong enough, you're not strong enough. And I watched a lot of the Ranger kids get their clocks cleaned at face-offs, and it just, if you're trying to be a winning team, it doesn't work.
I agree. Put him on the wing. I mean, the whole idea of him is they drafted him as a center because they were desperately in need of center. This is before they knew they would have Connor McDavid. So this is a completely different world now for the Oilers. They have a center now that they can put there. I mean, the idea, is now quickly Patrick Kane's going to play tonight, and in the home opener. We don't have to say anything else about that really, but that's what's happening, and we'll see what happens from there. But I wanted to touch. What was that? Did you say something? Sorry. Never mind. Let's move on to this. Last night, as I'm getting ready to go down to talk to the players after the game, I'm handed a note that is new that says that the NHL now, in accordance with MLB apparently, although that wasn't in the note, but that was the rumor, has eliminated the ability for reporters in the locker room to videotape with their iPhone or anything or any camera. You can no longer make a recording of a player when you're interviewing them on video, unless you are a rights holder. Apparently, so
video in the locker room is what you're saying.
Right. So normally a lot of reporters go down there, and you'll see people holding their iPhones out, interviewing people. Right. And I wanted the opinions of Kevin on this one. First off, what you think? Maybe we could log out you guys for a second, just so we can change it. There you go. Sorry. But and then Russ, I want to hear from you too. But what are your thoughts, Kevin?
Well, I have two thoughts on it. One is I thought it was inevitable. We've seen the continuing limiting of the media's ability to cover the sport. It's been going on for more than a decade. The best example is you watch now on the sidelines of NFL games, and used to see photographers up and down the sidelines. There'd be a lot of media, and now they're sort of limited to the corner because they have their deals with their own licensed photographers. And I think this was inevitable. But this is a really bad deal for reporters because this has become a staple of the industry. The ability to just shoot a video and post it, and it has an impact. I mean, it's all about, as we know, getting people to come to your website, and people like to see those little short clips. And to be honest, I think it's bad for fans because the ability of a reporter to just do unedited, raw, emotional video and just throw it up instantly, we're not going to see that now. You're not going to be able to do that.
Totally. 100%.
So, yeah,
I think
it's a bad deal.
And Kev, you could answer this, and Eck, you too. I've never seen a player complain about it. Like NHL players like getting interviewed.
It's not about the players. This is about the rights holders. This is about we're the only ones who can get video. We're the only ones who have videotape of the locker room, right? And to me, it's absolute. No, I don't. By the way, I don't do this. I don't actually record video of people. You'll never see me do this. I mean, I've done it in the past occasionally years ago when I would live stream it, and but now I don't do this anymore. But I see a lot of people who do, and I know reporters who have to for their job who say that they have to do it,
This is about driving traffic to the team's websites. I can only say for the Maple Leafs, they provide video of every interview that the media scrums are involved in, but they also edit them. I know that, for example, the whole Phil Kessel situation last year with Dave Feschuk from the Toronto Star, that situation was filmed by a reporter on his phone, but the interview was sanitized by the Maple Leafs on their website.
That is where this whole thing falls apart, because you're no longer getting if you're letting people into the room in the first place, and you're having them in there, they should be allowed to report on in any which way they choose. To me, this is putting toothpaste back in the tube that just can't be done. It's completely immature and very like 2002. I mean,
I think the league is trying to control. They're trying to control the message. I mean, I understand their point of view, but
as much. I really get that can happen. Like the Phil Kessel thing that we talked about, that can definitely be the case here, where they can, if no one else can film it, because people can still write about it. Like people are still going to write that Phil Kessel said.
Right. Yeah, I don't think that they're trying to control the message. I think X right on. It's a monetary situation.
Okay. I'll tell you what, this is going to hurt them and backfire. I believe it'll hurt them and backfire them at places like the Winter Classic and at places like the All-Star Game, because players expect that at those events. Like that's what they are there to sort of raise their level and persona, and now that's not going to happen. And because they're like, you go to the All-Star Game, there's 15, 20 guys that you'll see are getting interviewed at once, right? You can't possibly talk to them all, but they're all trying to sort of, get their word out. A lot of them talk about charities. Now you're not going to see any of that. I remember one of the video interviews I did at an All-Star Game was about David Backus's, dog adoption, and his kennel, not his kennel, but he has a shelter, a no-kill shelter in St. Louis. And so now you won't get that.
No, and you're dead on right. Instead, what you're going to have to do is hire somebody who will come and draw pictures of you, pictures of you, just like the good old days of boxing. Like that's what we want to have. Like this is Russ interviewing Patrick Kane. This is an artist rendition of what it looked like. And I mean, no, this is absurd. I mean, where this comes down.
You're going to get an entire fleet of court artists to.
Right, that's what I'm going to hire. This is my court artist. I would love to do that just as to make a statement on this thing, just to bring a guy in there and have him set up a canvas in front of, and as I'm interviewing people, draw what's happening, just to show how ridiculous this whole thing is. This is the akin to. Remember the NBA years ago tried to tell fans they couldn't tweet out the scores of games?
Yeah.
I mean, and how about fans recording on their iPhones? I mean, they're recording stuff right all the time. Is it illegal to do that? To rebroadcast that, I guess, without the express written consent.
I mean, it's all about enforcement. Like there's, again, I had this conversation with somebody in the music business, and there are some artists that will not let you tape anything, and especially now for comedians. Now they're afraid they're gonna, their act's gonna be exposed, so they say no phones or anything, and if they're gonna kick you out or whatever. And I'm thinking, the most popular bands are the ones that don't worry about it and that embrace it, and then it's the other ones, the ones that are, constricting it. They're actually hurting themselves, and they don't realize it because they think there's something to hide, or there's something like that, they want to be revealed to the fans, and they don't realize fans are going to talk anyhow. They're going to go on Reddit. They're still going to do things.
Never heard a band to have their.
They're not going to know about it.
Russ,
never heard a band ever to have their concert recorded. It's never heard a band. I mean, I can see comedians actually the only one I actually do understand. Like I do get that there's a punchline to everything they're doing, and I get that you don't want to give all that away, but.
It's not that. It's the chilling effect of after the whole Michael Richards thing that happened that basically ruined his career because he was making off-color remarks that were captured on an iPhone, and it
by a fan,
yeah, that's why now they have to be extremely careful about what they say. I mean, the whole point of a comedian is to be politically incorrect and be offensive. Most of them, that's what they do. But when it has the possibility of getting out there to everybody, not just the people in the audience, then their careers are in jeopardy. So that's why.
But I mean, somebody would still talk about that. I think it's more about it's about the money. I mean, they're afraid that if their act gets out there, that nobody will come and see them. So.
Content is a commodity. Like I've talked about this before. Like content right now is news is a commodity. Sorry, and I mentioned this before, but I really do believe this. This is a perfect example of it. You know, that news happens, and it's these, instead of worrying about reporters filming in the locker room, they should be worrying about putting together a better presentation. So you don't want to watch me interviewing Patrick Kane with my little iPhone when you've got, you know, HD cameras in there and all this stuff. That should just totally trump it anyway. If you do a better job at it than I do, then people are going to watch you. If I do a better job at it than you do, people are going to watch me.
You know, the thing that I think is probably a determining factor in this is that the advancing technology, you can have an iPhone 6 or a Galaxy S6 and record in HD.
Oh yeah,
and
no,
it
the
looks
quality is
looks
right.
professional. It looks like you know, NBC or CBC or anybody recorded this. So you can post your own video that is the same quality as network quality almost.
Well, Kevin, final thought on this is that you're the one person in this group who works for still a mainstream outlet, and you're actually, I'm sure, told at times you've got to go and get video or, you know, pictures of something, right?
Well, we don't do as much of that as other outlets. You know, mostly our video is, you know, shooting us talking about you know, the event, so it will not impact me all that much. But you know, the funny thing about it is there's been discussion about us maybe doing more of that. So you know, I guess that shelves that, at least for me. But you know, so other sports still allow it.
Other sports do. Apparently, baseball doesn't.
Baseball does not. No, for sure.
And that's why a lot of people are linking this perhaps to MLB and NHL. I don't know, but that's baseball does not. So, and that, you know, I don't know. It's really backward.
Well, they haven't stopped people in media scrums from taking pictures. It's video. I think there's a distinction.
That slope is done. I mean, this is like
once it's video, it'll be pictures too. Trust me.
It's not a long way from the video to the pictures. I mean, it's like, you know, that's really not a long way at all.
They're not going to be able to tell the difference, so they're just not going to let you bring your camera out or your phone out at all. That's what.
Well, that's the other thing too. Yeah, you're not going to be able to.
Well, you record off your phone. You know, a lot of people do.
I know. Now you're probably going to have to show them that you're recording.
Just recording. I mean, and what if you're just shooting a video? You know, the only time I have shot video sometimes is just for your own. When I'm interviewing a player, it does help to have a recording of him. It also helps to have a visual of him to remember the interview, to actually sit back. And I'm not going to post that video, but I'm going to. I guess you could probably, unless you post it, they're probably not going to say anything. But
right.
I think that this is a really backwards way of thinking about the way. The NHL always makes mistakes, and they're not the only one, but all major sports leagues make mistakes when they try to fight technology. Like when you try to push back against something like this, you are just pushing back a tidal wave of water that can't be pushed back against.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it now, though, you and I have talked about the amount of money that MLB paid. This really does, you know, like they're going to try to figure out how to monetize. You know, everything that goes on in the dressing room. This is what it has the feel of. You know, they got to recoup all that money.
And I do think that there is something owed to rights holders for paying all that money, but I already feel like they get a lot of stuff that we don't really talk about behind the scenes. That rights holders get information and things that do exist. This not one. This doesn't have to be one. That's my feeling. But
yeah, I'm with you.
All right, guys, that's all the time we have for today, but it was a good show, as always. We will be back again tomorrow. Are you heading to any games, Kevin?
I'm heading tomorrow. I'm going to see Eichel play in Buffalo. Russ, are you going to be there?
I won't be there tomorrow. No, I'll be there Thursday, though.
Yeah, okay. But anyway, I'll see him play tomorrow, and then I'll be at the prospect game. And then it's my plan to get into Pittsburgh and do something on Kessel and Crosby. So I think that's my next week coming up.
Awesome. Sounds like fun. All right, guys. We'll help have Kevin on for some of that, and if we're not, we'll definitely try to relay what we can. Without the buzz, guys, it is just hockey. We will talk to you tomorrow.